Namaste and welcome back to another episode of The Sapient. Today we have yet another guest. Welcome, Lunaria.
Thank you very much, Ganesh. Lovely to be here.
First of all, I hope I spelled your name right.
It's always a tricky one. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I get Lunaria Gaia, I get Lunaria Gaia, I get Lunaria. It's Lunaria Gaia. That's how you pronounce my name.
Lunaria. Mm-hmm.
But
Got it.
whatever works, you can call me Luna as well, because my friends do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hmm.
And I always stay away from the second names. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's just a mind. You step on it, boom. Mistakes every time.
Mistakes every time. Well, interestingly enough,
Yeah.
because Gaia can be, I would think maybe recognized internationally. I don't know because it
Mm-hmm.
means Earth, right? So I don't know if that's just an
Mm-hmm.
English thing, but
Yeah,
another
that's
word
definitely
for
an English thing.
definitely an English thing, right? Yeah. So Gaia means well, it's
Mm-hmm.
actually from Greek.
Mm-hmm.
Gaia is from Greek mythology what Mother Earth would
Mm-hmm.
be known as, which is why it's my surname.
Got it. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I usually just like stay away from second names.
Yeah.
And with few people they have like three names, and I'm like, yeah, I'm just good with the first name. I don't want like another two names.
Like
um,
Madonna. Madonna's only got one name. It's enough. Like Rihanna, it's
yeah,
enough. We don't need more. And for you, Ganesh, I mean,
hmm
that's a pretty powerful name.
yeah, but a lot of people have like difficult time pronouncing it.
Oh, did I pronounce it correctly?
Yes, I mean, you pronounced it for a white person, like enough.
Okay, so tell me how I pronounce it for not a white person. Tell me how I meant to pronounce it.
So you would say Ganesh.
Ganesh.
Yeah, the na is na.
Okay.
Na. It's like
Nah.
you roll your tongue little bit even inwards and then just throw it. So na.
Ganesh. Like in
y-
Spanish, if I would with an N accent, you might not know Spanish. So you say it again to me, and I'll say it back to you.
Ganesh.
Ganesh.
Yes, yes. See, now you're becoming a brownish person.
I'm
Accent.
getting, I'm getting browner.
Yeah,
Ganesh.
yeah. So how are you doing today?
Wonderful. It is a new week, and
Mm-hmm.
I've had some amazing. Had a really, I suppose, did lots of new things this week. The week that just went. So coming
Mm-hmm.
into this fresh week, there's it feels full of spring and newness and ideas, and it feels like the sun is shining, the birds are mating, the flowers are flowering. It's all it feels fresh and new, and it's a new moon too. So it's like there's a there's more
Mm-hmm.
energy than what it has been in the last few weeks, I reckon.
Mm-hmm. You know
What
what?
about
Like
you?
I am doing like good as always.
Off that.
Yeah. It's very interesting to me whenever I ask an author how are they doing. They go on this like detailed answers, and whenever I talk to any other regular person, how are you doing? They're like, yeah, I'm good, and that's it. And authors go in this incredible detail that I like, and I have learned over a period of time that if a person talks in length about how they are doing, they are supposed to be like creative people because they are
Ah.
looking at their life very creatively and just they're even looking at themselves from a third point of view. It's not like I'm
Mm,
looking at life, but they
mm,
are looking at me looking at life. It's like little bit
yeah.
Kanye West kind of theory.
Ah, you've opened up something inside of me, Ganesh. I'll practice that. Um,
Mhm.
because very often it would be people like my mother, for example, would ask me how I am, and all she wants to
Mhm.
know is, "Am I good?"
Yes.
But my answer is like I'm like physically, emotionally, mentally, or spiritually. Like what do you really want to know? And because I don't really
Hmm.
talk surface very well, I'm not a good small talker. I
Yeah.
can do it, but I don't like it.
Hmm.
Because of that reason, I'm like, well, of course I'm going to give you the truest answer that I can that I can
Hmm.
fathom within the context of the moment.
Hmm.
But that makes
Yeah,
me an
that
artist. I get it.
and it also makes you like kind of unique because yeah, I don't know why it's only with authors, not even with like singers or music writers. It's only with authors,
Yeah.
people who write a lot.
Right.
And
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know why. I think it might be out of habit that they have written so much that they need to express themselves in like using many words, or
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but that is something that always like like attracts me to a person. I'm like, okay, okay, this person knows what the heck they're talking about.
Mm.
um yeah, so let's
I'm
talk
really
your
grateful that you said that. Really grateful that you said that.
yeah. And also anytime that I mention this, an author goes, oh really, I did not notice that about me.
I did actually, and it's been about a month. Like only in the last month, I'm like,
Hmm.
wow. Because I was with friends recently, and
Hmm.
friends that I don't spend a lot of time with, but I was away with them,
Hmm.
and someone asked, "How's the temperature in the car?" And
Oh.
and and I gave her an answer like an author would, right? I said, I
Hmm.
was just pondering how utterly comfortable I felt, and how the temperature in my body was perfect. And one of them turned around and said, "It's never just a straight answer with you, is it?" And in that
Yeah.
moment, I had this blinding flash of the obvious of everyone else would say, "I'm fine, thanks," or "I'm a little hot," or "I'm a little cold." I
Yeah.
told a story.
Yeah, you wanted to make a book out of it, um,
Clearly.
as I would say. So let's talk your book, Perfectly Imperfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
What is this
It's
book about?
This book is your complete guide to loving yourself and loving your body.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And why should people love their bodies?
Oh, because it is the vessel to which we live in this life. It is the
Hmm.
only vehicle that we have
Hmm.
that is bringing our consciousness to this planet. It's the vessel to carry our soul, or out to carry our consciousness. That is how we get to express. Our body is the antenna
Hmm.
to consciousness, as far as I'm concerned. And we currently live in a world that is
Hmm.
obsessed with making it look a certain way
Hmm.
rather than being able to tune into how it actually not only serves us, but how we can serve it, and what kind of relationship that we might have with it. So the book is about both of those things. People would come to me because they think they hate their bodies. And to me, I would tell them that they think they hate their bodies, but they actually have a poor relationship with themselves. And when we heal the relationship with themselves, their relationship with their body also heals. It's an extension of.
Okay, Luna, do you think that people giving like two shits about what people say about them also harms them?
Yes, yes, they do. I mean, like, I it harms them when we give a shit about what anybody thinks, positive or negative. If
Hmm.
we're worried about criticism, then that
Hmm.
harms us. But also, if we desperately need the praise, if we need
Hmm.
the acknowledgement or the validation, do you like me? Do you want me? Do you approve of who I am and what I do? If we are seeking that and getting it,
Hmm.
that's just as destructive as the criticism and the judgment. It becomes, yeah, it's just as high. It's just as destructive because it's external rather than internal. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm. Yeah, I feel like this generation of social media kids like
Mhm.
give too much shit about what other people think,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they do not reflect on who am I and why am I like this.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, I think that then we end up molding ourselves to what we think a certain audience might want us to be, or how they want us
Hmm.
to be. And I say audience, I don't necessarily mean just on social media and people who are watching us, but
Hmm.
in the world. Who, like, you might find this. Where are you from, Ganesh?
I'm from India.
You're from India, right? So
Yeah,
correct me if I'm wrong here, but there can be in Indian cultures a huge pressure to do what your parents want you to do.
you do what your parents are told tell you to do.
Yes, is it? I mean, even as adulthood, right? Like, if your parents want you to be a doctor, then you best go be a doctor. Or is there a lot of pressure in Indian culture, do you think, to do what your parents tell you to do?
As a kid, yes. In especially in those houses who are like upper middle class,
Hmm.
Yeah, that's the challenge. Like either they wanted to be an engineer or a doctor, and even if you're an artist, they're like, okay, just get a degree and then do whatever the fuck you want to do.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yes, isn't that curious? Because if university isn't something that speaks to you, or if engineering or if being a doctor doesn't speak to you, some of the
Hmm.
hardest people to not give a shit about what they think is our
Hmm.
family, because
Hmm.
there's a there's a society, a culture within our families, right, of what is expected
Hmm.
or what is not expected. And it goes both ways. You might have a family who have high expectations of you to succeed in a certain field of academia or whatnot, like go to university at the very least. But there also can be an expectation that you won't shine, like that
Hmm.
you won't get too big for your boots. I don't know if that's an Indian culture, but in Australian culture, we have something
Hmm.
called tall poppy syndrome. Have you heard of tall poppy syndrome?
Nope.
No. So you can think of a poppy, like a poppy
Uh-huh.
is a flower in a field, and
Hmm.
if one of those flowers grows too tall,
Hmm.
it gets chopped down.
Oh. Hmm.
Yeah. So in Australian culture, they don't. I say they. I know I'm Australian, but I don't prescribe to this culture. In
Hmm.
Australian culture, they don't like people who are too shiny, too like that. We
Hmm.
don't want show offs. We don't want you to be too successful. Australians love an underdog and they love a battler. There's even a saying for it, the
Hmm.
Aussie battler. And there's a lot of pride in being a battler, like someone who battles, who
Hmm.
struggles along and whose life is hard. There's a
Hmm.
lot of um, praise in that. So if you want to be
Hmm.
successful, if I want to be successful in my life, I am more
Hmm.
likely to get shut down by my peers, even my family, because of being successful.
Hmm.
So it's not doesn't work
Yeah.
just work one way.
Yeah. In India, it's not like that. It's like once you become even like half successful, people start respecting you,
Ah,
and they
yeah.
say, okay, you know what, like we were clearly wrong. Because like parents attitude is so simple. Like millions of people want to become an actor. What are the chances you will become one? Like they are not doubting your capabilities. They're just saying if you look at statistics, you won't make it most probably.
It's a numbers game.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
Indians are emotional, but when it comes to money, they're very practical.
Okay.
Like it's weird if you have ever even like lived for 2 days with an Indian, you
Mhm.
will be able to notice how quickly like they can switch from emotional to practical. And and once that practicality comes out, they'll be like very ruthless.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
it, it's like, like if you told an elder Indian, like, yeah, you know what, I wrote this book, and it was doing good, and if you use it was doing good, they were like, Luna, just stop writing, it's not doing good anymore. It's like that. Like if
No
if you want
pressure.
them to be practical, yeah, they will be practical very quick.
How does that play out in terms of, I'm so curious about self-esteem. Like when you think about, I mean, I'm a self-esteem confidence
Hmm.
expert, confident, like,
Hmm.
I'm someone who specializes in it. How does that play out for self-esteem, do you think, for you or your
I think
culture?
I think in Indian society, self-esteem and self-confidence is built through culture and heritage.
Mm,
So they, like usually parents will teach their children, you come from this particular bloodline. Your elders were this and this and this, and they did this. So you have the same immense capacity that they have, and you better achieve something.
yeah. And then what happens if you don't want to, like if you so the standard of achievement, just say you don't want to follow in the footsteps of your bloodline, or if you like, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know how your parents feel about you making a podcast. I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
that's in alignment with it.
Yeah.
Like,
So when I say about, like, about our elders, when they talk about that, they,
mm,
they just talk about greatness. They were like, these people achieved this without any help.
yeah,
So
mm,
you have the same capability. If you want, you can achieve it.
yeah,
And in India, the thing is, you had to realize, Luna, we are 1.5 billion people.
yes, that's
And
right.
you know
Billion.
we-
That's a B.
yeah, it's a B.
It's a
B for
B.
big. B for big. And we are competitive by nature. That's something that Indians absolutely
Mm.
like are. Even in smallest things they will just start competing for nonsense. It doesn't even make sense sometimes. um so yeah, like people want to achieve something, but if you don't achieve it, it's fine, you know.
Okay.
Because many parents prefer, like, just get a government job, just just be average, it doesn't matter. And for many
Yeah.
families, that's the greatest achievement you can achieve, like just get a government job.
Yeah. And okay, so then how do you see that playing out with happiness if we come back to like the fulfillment of our
Hmm.
souls, so to speak? Obviously, do the practical things of go get a job that
Hmm.
pays well. That's a
Yeah.
decent paying job that can take care of you
Hmm.
and your family. How
Hmm.
how does happiness then relate to that?
Because one thing about India is, like, happiness is like a very combo kind of thing, because
Okay.
you're always in with your family. Like, I'm 26, I will never move out of my house. To Western standards, I cannot,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
Because my parents are getting old, and if they need help, I need to be here. Like, it's that
Yeah. Right.
simple.
Yeah.
And and somehow India has retained its spirituality over this many millennia,
Mm.
that it's really not hard to be happy in India. That's why you see a lot of struggling people to just be happy, and
Yeah.
not go overdose themselves, or kill themselves like Western countries.
Mm.
And that is not something that people understand. If a person's from United States, let's say, they do not understand that concept. They're like, okay, but how does it work? Like, why do you help your parents, you know like and I'm like, yeah, because I'm not an asshole, and I have responsibility towards my family, right? They took
Yeah.
care of me for 18 or 20 years, and then I need to take care of them for their last 18, 20 years. That's what you
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
And this phrase, like, that's what you do, is very important in Indian culture, because there are many reasons, there are many, like, practices that you cannot give reasons to.
Okay.
And the reason is this: that's what you do.
That's what you do. It's
Yeah,
the
like,
done
for
thing.
example, yeah, for example, if your uncle is old, right, and he doesn't have any children, you know or you take them in your house, they live with you until they die. And
Yeah.
the reason is that's what you do. Like, you cannot ask questions around that. And the biggest thing, the best thing is, in India, if you don't take care of your parents, you're considered as an asshole. Like, you are
Yes.
just a corrupt person.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that I love about our culture.
Yeah. And I've seen that that there will come a point where like that's a very selfless thing
Yeah.
from a Western culture. For me, that's
Yeah.
selfless to think
Mhm.
that we would put our lives aside or on pause
Mhm.
to take care of our parents. I
Yeah.
also think that there's uh, something goes wrong in Western
Mhm.
culture as far as I'm concerned because we
Mhm.
don't take care of our elders.
Yeah.
They get abandoned like completely.
Mhm. Yeah.
Even when they're well, my parents are in their
Uh-huh.
70s and they're
Mhm.
and they're well and they're functioning like they're fine. They don't need
Mhm.
me,
Mhm.
but my other siblings don't spend a lot of time with them at all
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
they're busy living their own life. And to me, I'm like, as you say, like you guys are
Mhm.
assholes. Like
Yeah.
these I don't always like my parents, but they
Uh-huh.
brought me here and they, put a roof over my head for 20 years. There's a certain sense to me of
Yeah.
duty to, it's not even repaying them. I think
Mhm.
it's how it should be done. We ought to look after our elders
Yeah.
in the way that they looked after us.
Yeah. Like, I was talking to an elder person here, and
Hmm.
I talked to them about the concept of retirement villages,
Yeah.
and they could not, like, wrap their heads around it. They were like, okay, so what do you do there? I'm like, you just live. Okay, who's with you? And I was like, caretakers. And she assumed that caretakers were like family.
Yeah. No.
She was like, oh, I get it, where old people live, and younger people also live. I'm like, no, like, they are paid employees. And she was like,
Yeah.
like, that concept was so, like, foreign.
Mm.
And like, even in India we have heard this sentence, like, I want to live my own life. I'm like, and even our Supreme Court said, right, like, you don't have to shadow your parents 24 by 7, right?
Mm,
You
mm,
might have to spend like 2 to 3 hours with them each day, that's all. And
yeah.
it's amazing how happy you would be, because you as you said, you definitely don't have to like your parents, and they don't have to like you back.
Mm,
Because
mm,
if everybody liked each other constantly, then this world would be very boring,
it would. Correct.
right?
Yeah.
To make it interesting, they need to hate you, you need to hate them, you need to have flaws. They also
Yeah.
need to reflect on their own faults, and you can point it out
Mm,
definitely. um,
mm.
but yeah, like this concept of I need to live my own life, what our Supreme Court did. Because like a few people were abandoning their parents, you
Yeah.
know and their parents could not go anywhere, and they were almost in a homeless situation.
Wow.
So Supreme Court said, you know what, like fuck you. If you don't take care of your parents, you do not have rights to their ancestral properties too.
Well, that makes good sense. You don't get the inheritance if you aren't going to
Yeah,
take care of them, because otherwise they
yeah.
become like a ward of the state. Then the
Hmm.
government has to look after them. This is what happens in Australia all the time. It's quite a common thing. I, as you're talking, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, "Oh my God, I could not spend 3 hours a day with my mother every
Hmm.
day." Like
Yeah.
when either of my parents, I'm like, "Oh my, like
Hmm.
I don't." I mean, but I suppose if you've done that forever,
Yeah, but Luna, like even if you start doing it today, right?
yeah,
This particular thing, like, oh my god, I have to spend 3 hours a day. It's not like 3 hours exactly. It's like,
no, of course,
like you sat down for a breakfast, or you cooked, or they cooked, or like just social touch points, right? And probably within like 15 days, that awkwardness would be gone, because you'd just be like in the habit of it.
yeah, yeah. It's interesting because I don't. I mean, for me personally, I don't think it's awkwardness. It's I
Friction.
suppose. Well, no, it's frequency. If I
Hmm.
would say that, I'm
Hmm.
really careful who I let into my inner circle. So maybe from a
Hmm.
spiritual perspective, I it's important that I surround myself with people who are on a similar vibe to me, so that
Hmm.
I'm on a mission to do work in this world. So if
Hmm.
I'm having conversations with people of consciousness that isn't anywhere near my level of consciousness, it
Hmm.
tends to it tends to dampen, is that the
Hmm.
word? It sort of clouds my
Hmm.
ability to stay centered in my own energy source. I don't know,
Hmm.
how do you find that, of like I'm
So,
very different
mhm. I
consciously
mean,
than my parents are.
the thing is, like, like, okay, this is a concept that I have heard before. Not exactly, but like, I have seen and heard people say that if I live with my parents, I won't have my space
Yes.
of mental or spirituality. And I'm like, no, that's not truthful.
Mhm.
Because I see my brothers, right? Because I have too many brothers and sisters, not of my own, but in my family, right?
Okay,
um
yeah.
so, because my grandfather had like 9 kids, so
Mm,
there are a lot of cousins, and I see my brothers living, because my brothers are married, and my sister-in-law's parents, they don't have a son, so
okay.
they also come and live with my brother. And
Mhm.
of course my brothers are, and his parents. So it's like totally 6 people in one house, right? And you would
Yeah.
think, oh my god, like no fucking privacy at all.
No, great.
They hardly talk to each other, and
Yeah.
it's not like, because everyone has their own designated places in their house, and they just sit there.
Mm.
The best way to imagine is, if anyone has seen Friends, just imagine how they sit in their own places every time in the cafe, in the Center Park cafe, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
it's like that, right? If a person is old, they'll probably sit outside for 1 or 2 hours a day, just to sunbathe and talk to people, and they go out.
Mm.
So it's like they also have their own lives, so it's not like they're constantly bothering you. And
Yeah.
it's not like you're probably walking into them. So
Yeah.
it's just imagine, it's like 6 friends living in one house, just sleeping in one house, rather than doing anything else.
Housemates.
Yeah,
Housemates rather
housemates.
than,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the best way to put it forward. And also you have to understand that if you have kids, kids grow better in a,
Yes.
in a family environment, because there are, two or three
They
people
will.
taking care of that particular kid. If even if the mother is working, it doesn't really matter, because there are grandparents within the household taking care and who are making sure there is structure, right? Because
Yeah.
in India, like, smacking is a very very easy thing. Smacking a
Mm.
kid if it does
Yeah.
something wrong. And I am, like, not against it, as long as it does not cross few boundaries.
Mm.
I feel like kids should know, like, consequences. And
Yeah.
helicopter parenting, you know by the way, which is psychologically proven to lead to a very sadder life, that is helicopter parenting,
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
kid. So in India, it's like, like, if you do something wrong as a kid, I, a random stranger on the street won't, like, think about, just leave it, it's not my kid, he's going to take care
Mm.
of it, he or she. They will immediately, like, take action. And that action can be verbal, they can, come to their parents, they can go to their grandparents, and it's very instant and it's very taken seriously also.
Yeah.
So from day one, you're taught to live in this particular society and respect it. But
Yeah.
you can also have your own fun.
Yeah.
So
What
that's
what
the
I'm
kind of
really
weird
hearing
part of
here about the respect seems
it.
really prevalent. Like even in the household you're
Yes.
talking about, like if you're with your family that's housemates that you're
Yeah.
living together,
Yeah.
it's not this overbearing, everybody's
Mhm.
involved in what are you doing, where are you going, who are you having, like there's not necessarily,
Yeah.
and it's going to depend
They
on,
don't care.
yeah,
No, they truly don't care. It's just
yeah,
like, as long as you are doing good and you're not being an asshole and just not, crossing all the boundaries of societies, they don't care. You do whatever you
yeah,
want to.
yeah. And so I wonder, it's kind of like the chicken and the egg, because
Hmm.
I don't think that in Western culture we get taught respect very well. I don't think that's something,
Sorry,
particularly now,
Western world doesn't understand respect at all.
at all.
Like,
Yeah, I think,
yeah,
yeah,
Western society does not have any hierarchy, if you think about it.
and certainly you don't respect elders. Like there is
Hmm.
none of that. Like, and
Yeah.
to me, that's getting worse. Like I did, like we kind of raised that, like we wouldn't back talk to a teacher or
Hmm.
a parent. Maybe we would, but
Yeah.
we would get punished for it. But we're in 2023 and it's woke culture, and you can't say
Hmm.
you can't say shit to kids anymore. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, and I
but
appreciate that we
but the
want to
thing
look
is,
after their emotions, but
yeah, but
mm,
but if you look at Eastern countries, they just don't give a fuck about a kid's thought.
no,
uh
correct.
yeah, they're like, you're just a fucking kid, like, you don't know shit, shut the fuck up, and they just beat you.
Yeah, and
Anyways.
then I suppose I wonder then, Ganesh, what happens? Like,
Hmm.
how does the adult turn out if the
So
child has
adult turns
been?
out understanding.
Mm,
Back then I was dumb. They don't understand that, because there are rebels, right? In every countries there are rebels, like,
mm,
in every class of a school has a rebel, right? Who will do
yeah.
absolute worst fucking things
Mm,
that could be,
mm,
like, even tried out as war criminals.
yes, naturally.
But when they grow up, they understand, okay, like, I was doing something really fucking dumb.
Mm,
And because, you see, like, if they did not face the consequences of what they did, they
yeah.
they would not be in a position where, when they grow up, they would be like, okay, I was really dumb, because they did not face anything.
Mm, mm,
The biggest thing is, in India, if someone smoked a cigarette, right, as a kid, and if their parents get to know, yeah, the hell is about to come down, and give a special delivery to that kid.
yeah.
Like, not only from parents, but if their uncles get to know, or if brothers get to know, like, it
Yes.
is severe, right? And that's a kind of consequence that, it is taught, like, you are not supposed to do these things. And if you ask them why, they will just give one simple reason: it's bad, and your kid, you do not understand.
Mm,
And it's very,
mm,
and the worst thing in other cultures that I say is, they treat a kid as an adult,
yeah.
like, as if they know everything
Yes,
you
which of
know
course they don't. We were talking before about not giving a fuck what other people thought of us, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
How those two things seem at odds to me. Like,
Yeah.
cool, well, as, as an adult in India, maybe we're caring about what the government thinks of us, or we're caring what our parent thinks of us, or if I want to go
Mhm.
live my life. Do you think that
Mhm.
it's because you've been raised that you would just look after your parents? There's
Mhm.
that level of respect. Do you care what they think? Like, if you want to go live in
Mhm.
America and you don't want to look after your
Yeah.
parents, do you care?
Yeah. I could do that because few of my brothers are doing that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, but I see their parents suffering here in India,
Okay. Yeah.
and I feel like that's like that is not human. Like, of course, you can go
Mm.
and live in United States. Take your fucking parents with you. It's not that much of a big deal.
Yeah.
If you
Right.
think that you will be far more fucking successful, like I don't know, John Lennon or Hitler, or whoever it is, you'll be
Uh,
that level of successful. Then take your parents with you. And if you think that you're going to scrape fucking toilets in United States, why the fuck did you go there in the first place? Because you first of all you're an engineer or in a very good profession, right?
mm,
And
mm,
if you just went there for the sake of looking at white people, I'm like, yeah, so fuck you, because it's your like kid in you, not an adult. You're just a kid,
not
who
adults.
is just like a fancy wonderland that you want to go and scrape
Mm.
toilets just to say to other people, I live in America.
So when do you think, and coming back to that piece again, like when do you think our life becomes our own, or does it not? Is that after our
It's
parents have?
always on your own. It's always on your own. Because you
Okay,
see, even if you live with your parents, Luna, you have to understand, after a certain age, they won't be able to support you at all.
naturally, yes, but I mean, but then you're
And as the
obliged to
support
them.
goes down, no, and as the support goes down, their opinions also go down,
Yeah,
because they
right.
understand, like,
Okay.
I am not being help to my child, and I cannot like keep criticizing them for what they do.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, you do whatever you want, like, it's not an issue. But you see, you have to understand that like, parents are not that critical to your life. Like, critical meaning, they're not like the best criticizers of your life.
Hmm.
They will just say, like, let's say today I went to my mother and said, I want to start a business. They will be like, okay, but where will you bring money from? And if I say I will take a loan, she will be like, okay, how will you plan to pay it back?
Hmm.
And then it's just a conversation of practicality rather than emotions.
Yeah, and then are you talking to them about that because you want their advice? You are wanting their approval? Like why go
Mhm.
to them at all as an adult?
Because you're living in the same house, and it's your responsibility to be transparent to your own parents, at least.
Yeah,
Because
and see that
you
that's
see,
what gets me. I'm like
uh,
I'm like sitting there going. To me, I sit
but
there and
it's
go,
about accountability, right? Like,
yeah,
you need to be accountable and transparent to at least someone in your life. I cannot always say,
mm,
what, I'm going to be shady as fuck and do all these under table deals and not let anybody know.
yeah. Well, I suppose that they're two different things, right? So shady under the table deals is not the same
Mhm.
thing as not telling anybody about your plans, right? So
You don't have to, but
yeah,
it's just like, I feel like it. I'm just giving an
mm,
example. If I feel like it, I'll just go and tell it. Because
yeah,
I'm doing 10 different things, and my mother knows probably like two things. And
yeah,
she doesn't even give a fuck. She's like, why the fuck are you telling me this? Like,
yeah,
she's like,
right.
why are you telling me with this? Like, it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, and so then I suppose, yeah, my thinking is sitting there going, when does the cord get cut? When do we stop?
Around when you finish your graduation in India, usually that's 21.
Yep.
Yeah, because in India, getting a student loan is rather hard,
Okay.
you know. So your parents do pay almost full of your education.
Yep.
But once you're 18, you're expected to work somewhere,
Hmm.
either in your father's business, or if in your family, if someone is doing business, you go work with them, you go learn money. Um, because money seems to be very like essential in our society, because they
Of
teach you about
course.
money very
Yeah.
quickly.
Yeah.
How to handle money, what to do with money. If you have excess money, what do you do? If you don't have money, what do you do? Like,
Mm.
and then you go to somewhere and start working at the age of 18. Usually I started
Yep.
working because my father died around when I was 12.
Hmm.
But that's a rare case, because otherwise, once you finish like your 12th 12th
Hmm.
standard, you start
Yep.
working. from because 18 is the legal age of working. And yeah, there are
Oh
far
wow.
underage kids who are working, but it's just like, yeah, I have to work, I'm working. But apart from
Mm,
that, you start working, and once you finish your degree graduation, then you also have to understand that when you're living with your parents until 21 or 22, or if you're a doctor until the age of 24, 25, your
mm,
parents are paying your bills, your
yeah.
transportation, your food, your shelter,
Yeah.
everything. They're taking care.
Yeah.
But once you finish your graduation, that household responsibility is slowly transferred to you. They're like, okay, this year you're going to pay 20% of the house expenses, next
Okay.
year
Yep.
50%, and they,
Yep.
they, they will come a day when you're paying 100%.
Yeah, so that's the very practical side of things in terms of the cutting of the
Mm-hmm,
cord. So you, of course, that is your own. You are earning your own money. You are contributing or even holding the household. That is
mm-hmm,
you. Do you think? And I mean, obviously, you can only speak from your personal opinion, from your
mm-hmm,
experience here. But is there our parents pass us on their
mm-hmm,
beliefs about the
mm-hmm.
world, about
Yeah,
how things should be. That
yeah.
includes our, like, all of our conditioning, all of our programming comes from our culture, our parents, and our society. And
Mm-hmm,
so, if you, like, when is there a point where you go,
mm-hmm,
I don't want to believe what you believe about the
mm-hmm.
world?
Yes, that's with literally every generation
Yeah. Okay.
of
Yep. Yep.
of human beings. They're like, yeah, your beliefs are kind of like outdated. We are going to farm our own set of beliefs that would be outdated in another 30 years. That's
Yeah.
just the cycle. That just keeps happening.
Do you find
That's
yourself
not
getting
even. Mhm.
triggered by them? Like, that's a very woke
No.
and modern 2023 Western kind of terminology, would be triggered, that there are
Yeah.
wounds from your parents hurt you from
Uh-huh.
childhood, and now they get triggered in you as an adult.
Yeah. That really does not happen, because trigger is not a word we use. Because Luna, you have to understand that Indians are like very savage people. Like,
Okay,
they
yeah.
don't like they don't really think before getting violent. Like, you have to understand that.
Uh-huh.
Like, we are not soft people. Like, we are not like you know the typical American who's like, you know if a kid does something wrong, they're like, no, you don't do it, no, you stop it, no, you stop it. In India, it's not that question. Like, before even a word flew, two hands would have flown, like.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so it's like there is no place for soft thinking. Soft
Yep.
thinking meaning thought without action.
Yep.
Because if you say, I don't like this, the one question is, okay, so what are you going to do about it?
Mhm.
Like, are you
Mhm.
going to change it, or are you going to take action on it, or what are you going to do about it? My mother does not know the complete English. And if I started talking English with her, she would say, okay, so I don't know English,
Mm.
what are you going to do about it? Meaning, will you teach me? If not, then shut the
Yeah.
fuck up. Like, it's that simple. Like, so
Mm.
you can rebel. Like, people of course fight with their parents all the time because of beliefs and rules and regulations.
Mhm.
And they typically like break that mold when they're 18, 20, because that's the age you realize, right? Okay, I have my own brain, I can think on my own, and this is not
Mm.
something I want to do. And they do break apart in terms of thinking independently. But it's just like nuances of life. You just flow through it, understanding, okay, this is what my parents think, this is what I think. Okay, where do I find this middle ground to just go
Mm.
through it with the least resistance?
Yeah. And so how does that play out with spirituality, for example? So
Hmm.
so it seems to be that it's totally okay to question your parents. It's not like it's like you just
Hmm.
have to do what you're told. I mean, as a child, it sounds like you have to
Hmm.
do what you're told. But once you
Yes.
once you become an adult, then it's like,
Hmm.
well, actually, what are the actions? What are the consequences? What are we doing about it? Like, don't just
Hmm.
talk for the sake of it. There's not. It
Yeah.
doesn't sound like there's a lot of uh, like oversensitivity, as you say, softness. There's
Yeah.
not this like mollycoddling
Hmm.
to every emotion that's ever been. So there's
Yeah.
probably, it doesn't sound like there's a lot of insecurity, like, who am I?
Hmm.
What am I doing on this planet? It doesn't sound like there's a lot of that. Would that be fair to say? Do you think culturally?
That would be prevalent if people are not like spiritual from childhood.
Okay.
the trend is, you're taught spirituality in your childhood, and from
Mm.
20 to 35 you stay away, you become an atheist, you are like fuck god, and he's an asshole, blah blah blah. But once
Uh-huh.
the 35-40 age hits, you start to become spiritual again, because you realize, okay, I'm not invincible, like there is someone who is more powerful than me, and they become spiritual, or they go find some peace, right? It's just
Yeah,
life.
right. And
Yeah.
that's for you. So you're in that age bracket of 20 to 35. So are you atheist right now?
I'm kind of like weird, because I'm like, I believe in God,
Mm.
um, but I have read so much about God. I'm like, I believe in this, Luna. Like, if you believe in any spirituality, science, fucking super science, aliens, whatever the fuck you want to call them as,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
You should have a relationship with that God, or with that being, that nobody else should understand.
It's the second time I've heard that. I heard that yesterday, that it's never going to be, no one else is going to understand your connection to
Yeah.
God, like to spirit, to whatever
Yeah.
it is. Not,
It's like, if you
it's
often
different.
look at, yeah, if you look at like most successful marriages, right? The both characters are like on the opposite end of the spectrum.
Mm.
One is very cool, one is very like fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And they somehow make it work, and apart from those two, nobody will understand how they're making it work.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
spirituality is like that.
Yeah, and if we circle back to me, what I teach is people how to have a relationship with themselves. That
Hmm.
that we are so disconnected from ourselves that the relationship people have internally with inside themselves is practically non-existent. I'm not
Hmm.
sure how my work would actually even be relevant in an Indian market based on what you're talking
Hmm.
about, because I'm like, it may not be a problem that people in India even experience. It's sure as shit
Peop-
a problem that
Mhm.
people in the Western world experience, but I'm not sure if it's a disconnection from self.
Mhm.
I don't know.
So
Yeah.
here is where I think your point of view or perspective or expertise comes into play, right?
Mhm.
Indians suffer from being humble. Like, that's the biggest suffering that Indians go through.
They're far from being
For
humble.
example, yeah, they suffer from being humble.
Okay, right.
For
Yes.
example, if I told you your voice is not good, right?
Mhm.
You would at
Mhm.
least question. You'd be like, why do you think so? Right?
Mhm.
But if a white person says something to an Indian, white meaning any foreigner or any person who has any privilege, right?
Sure. Mhm. Yep.
If they say something to me, if they say, your spectacles is not good, that
Uh-huh.
will hamper my confidence immediately, and I'll probably take it like very serious.
But if it was from an Indian person, you wouldn't.
If that Indian person had a privilege, like
Oh.
if that person was successful or had better life or had anything plus plus plus, right? Like if they had anything better than me, and
Mm.
they said, Ganesh, like I don't like your beard, and I would be like, okay, okay, my beard looks bad. And imagine like taking 10 hits in a month like that, right? 10 hits like that in a month would fuck your self confidence up to a
Yeah,
level where it is almost like non-existent.
yeah, because if I'm tying some ends here together, so culturally you get raised to believe that your elders or people that are in more positions of power, right, or
Mhm.
power or privilege, like our parents, our elders, that kind of stuff. If there's people who automatically deserve respect because they
Mhm.
have more success, therefore their opinions are more valuable than your own opinion of
Yeah.
yourself. So I can see how
Yeah.
that plays out, because now all of a sudden, if somebody was less successful than you told you that your spectacles, there's something wrong with them, would that
Matter.
impact? Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah, so
Because
okay,
then
cool.
the
Yeah,
question would be like very practical, right? Like, let's say if I told you, because you are clearly elder than me, and you are far far accomplished than my chipmunk ass like life.
yeah,
if you told me something, I would take it seriously. But if
yeah.
I told you, Luna, like your earrings don't look good, then you'd be
Mhm.
like, okay, kid, so what the fuck have you done in your life? got it.
Yeah, wow. This is fascinating to me. It's so fascinating to me because I will often speak about there being an internal and an external locus of control. And that if
Hmm.
our self-esteem, if our confidence, if our power is in the hands of other people, irrelevant of those people, right? If our power is in the hands of those, we're fucked.
Hmm.
Because it's fickle, it's always changing. I might like your spectacles, but your auntie might not like them. So then, do for you would then how do you then decide whose is more important? Well, maybe your auntie because you know them. um
Hmm.
but if you had two aunties who have the same jobs or the same level of privilege or
Yeah.
power, one of
Yeah.
them thinks you should keep your beard and the other one thinks that you shouldn't. Which one do you
Mm.
listen to?
So then it's all about practicality, right? It's all about which auntie do you like more.
Okay, yeah, right. And do you see how then now all of our
Mm.
decisions are external to us? So then, like you said, if then I get 10 hits of people telling me that I'm shitty externally, then my confidence is gonna crumble. So
Yeah,
what I teach is having internal, that my
exactly.
opinion of me is the most important thing. It doesn't mean it's not going to hurt when people tell me that my earrings are shit. That
Hmm.
it doesn't mean that it's not going to hurt, but it's the ability to go, well, whose opinion actually matters. I mean, to me, and
Hmm.
what I ultimately teach is it's you with God, it's you with consciousness,
Hmm.
it's you with your maker. At the end of the day,
Hmm.
it's this relationship rather than
Yeah.
the externalization of, you
Hmm.
mean you're in the public eye to
Hmm.
your extent with your podcast here.
Yeah.
There would be people you find on social
Hmm.
media who maybe aren't particularly kind
Hmm.
about you and what you do. So if we
Hmm.
rely on that,
Hmm.
on the good stuff, or get hurt deeply by the bad stuff,
Hmm.
we're constantly at the mercy of other people's opinions that we literally
Yeah.
have no control over. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So
Mm,
that's what I was getting to. Like that's where your teachings or your expertise is very useful,
yeah,
because people suffer from self doubt way too much.
they do.
Um, yeah, I find that kind of weird, because you see, of course, because I went through my own like shit to get understand, like, okay, you know what, like I am this, like I don't have to sugarcoat shit. I'm like, okay, if and like almost every episode when I talk to a better person than me, I always say, I have a brain of equivalent to a chipmunk, or or an ape, and uh, um, my brain is still in evolution process, right? That's what I
So
say to
yeah,
myself.
we all are,
but
aren't we? Though.
but I know that I am the next freaking Einstein.
Mm,
Interiorly,
mm,
right? But
uh-huh.
exteriorly I'm like very humble. I'm like, yeah, I don't know anything. And I feel like that balance is important. But
I agree.
with many my generation kids in India, they lack that balance,
Mm,
because the line between internal and external, how you described it, that line becomes blurry. So sometimes
yeah.
they get confused. Okay, if Luna is saying that I'm fat, like, am I really fat, or she's just making fun of me, or you understand, right? Like
I do.
they will get confused, and that's why they often suffer from self-doubt,
Yeah.
and they're very self-critical.
Yeah.
That's why you would see, if you ever meet an Indian, they would probably apologize to you 20 times in a conversation, far more than Canadians. and
Yeah.
and they would mean each and every one of those.
Yeah.
And
And so there's the apologizing about yourself, even like
yeah,
I'm sorry for existing.
and then they will follow up that apology with another apology for apologizing.
Yes. Yeah.
um yeah, so that's kind of, and the worst thing is, to most of Indians, like, if they apologize and you become kind of uncomfortable, they don't know what to do, because they just say sorry, and you're like, okay. If you react very weird, they don't know
Mm.
what else to do, because in human nature there is nothing else you can do apart from apologizing, right?
Yeah.
You
Wow.
cannot be more kind than that. And they're like, okay, so what do I do next? Like, do I fucking, I don't know, like, what do I do? Like, that's the dead end they hit.
Yeah. And so what I'm hearing there with that, like I see across the globe, um, certainly in Western cultures, but in I'm hearing even more in probably, I think that it's in human nature. We aren't
Hmm.
very. What I see in the world is that we're not very good at dealing with uncomfortable emotions. We're
Hmm.
not very
Yeah.
good at dealing with shame and pain and guilt and sorrow. We're not good at dealing with unhappiness, and we're not good at dealing with the darkness within inside of us, what I would call the
Yeah.
darkness. Not because it's bad, simply because it's the night. It's the
Mm.
night of our souls, in the same way that our light around happiness and joy and elation and
Yeah.
kindness and giving, most people don't know how to deal with their shit side. And
Yes.
so what we end up doing with our shit side is denying it and pushing it aside, saying, I don't want to feel that way. So I'm going to
Hmm.
do everything I can to avoid feeling that way.
Yeah.
Depending on the culture, depending on where you're at, that will be that will, in Australian culture, it would be drinking and shopping and gossiping and keeping busy.
Mm.
Globally, it could be more like overworking,
Hmm.
overachieving, studying a lot, keeping in other people's business rather than our own business. We
Hmm.
do everything in our power to be able to avoid the negative emotions. But
Yeah.
all that does is disconnects us from our true self, and we end up
Hmm.
more self-doubt. We have less self-esteem, and we feel disconnected from ourselves and our higher self, because we are human. So we have the
Hmm.
whole spectrum of emotions and thoughts within us. It's only
Hmm.
our denial of them, not because we want them
Yeah.
to be in control, but the
Hmm.
denial of those parts of us actually forces it to be more powerful in our presence rather than facing them, really.
Yes, exactly.
Mm.
And yeah, like don't worry, Luna, your books will be still sold in India. Like people need that. People
I might need to
definitely
change
need
the
that.
cover.
It's okay. You don't need to. You don't need to change anything. Just let it be.
Just let it be. Let Perfectly Imperfect spread out
Yeah.
into India for sure.
Yeah. It will spread. That's not even a question because people need it. And in today's
Thank you.
world, uh, trust me, people need it in today's world.
I agree.
Uh, because it's just a messed up world that we are living in. Like that's like something that I always fail to understand, right? Like you are you and I am. Okay, this sounds crazy. Let me put it a better way. Like you, as you are a person who is different than me, right?
Hmm.
And there is no way I can assume that Luna is like me. You are not like me, definitely,
Hmm.
and I'm not like
Hmm.
you.
Hmm.
And people are like, okay, just because you're different, either you're crazy or weird.
It's
And
yeah.
yeah,
What?
why? That was going to be my question. Like, why do we label each other these things that makes us like, I don't know, assholes or just bad people in general?
Yeah. Look, I would think that we are herd creatures. We are, in our very nature, we are pack animals. Like we're in a
Hmm.
herd, and so
Yeah.
we have a biological imperative to fit in, because that's
Hmm.
safety. Because
Hmm.
we weren't always top of the food chain, we haven't
Hmm.
always been the predators. So we're actually we're more likely to be prey animals
Hmm.
the larger kingdom. It's only now, because we have guns and we have a roof and all that kind of stuff, that we have
Hmm.
developed into being in predators, and that we can overpower other animals in. But if you put us in the jungle with
Yeah.
like with a lion, we're
Hmm.
screwed, right? Like we don't win that
Yes.
battle. Like we really, really
Yeah.
don't. So we are prey animals in our
Hmm.
nature. Our lizard brain, our primal need is to fit in, because when we
Hmm.
fit in, we have safety in numbers.
Yeah.
And so, just say we're a pack of zebras,
Hmm.
and I now don't want to be a black and white zebra anymore. I want to be a black and pink zebra. So I
Hmm.
go down to the local safari chemist, shopping center, and I buy some pink dye, and I dye my skin pink, and I rock up to the watering hole the next day.
Hmm.
The herd is going to first try to correct the behavior.
Hmm.
And that's going to look like something on the lines of, oh, you can't wear that. What's wrong with
Hmm.
you? Like,
Hmm.
you're crazy. You're weird. Or, more subtly, it would be like, oh, I wouldn't wear that. You
Hmm.
know, criticism, judgment. We would get like,
Yeah.
people would look down upon us. And that's the
Mhm.
herd's ability, herd's desire, deep desire to correct the behavior. And
Mhm.
so if the herd can't correct the behavior, if I'm like, no, I'm a zebra, I want to wear pink, that's what I'm doing. If the herd
Mhm.
can't correct it, in order to keep it safe, it must
Mhm.
reject it.
Yeah.
So again, this biological imperative that we have to be able to fit in is
Mhm.
a sense of survival that we have. So
Mhm.
from our primal brain,
Mhm.
we must categorize people as like me and not like me. Because if it's
Mhm.
like me, I'm safer. If it's not like
Mhm.
me, I don't know, and I have to assume that it's a threat.
Mhm.
But again, Ganesh, this is primal, it's lizard brain, and we
Yeah.
we actually have far more consciousness than that. We don't
Mhm.
have to abide by that.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying that we're going to override our biology, so to speak, but
Mhm.
it's understanding that that's an unconscious programming that happens. If
Mhm.
you want to be a pink and black zebra, you might want to go find other people who are pink and black zebras. Because if you
Mhm.
stay in the same herd
Yeah.
that forces you to be a white and black zebra, you
Mhm.
will constantly feel like you're not enough because you have to fit
Yeah.
in. So
Yeah.
what's more important is that we look for, to me again, I'm always bringing people back to the internal,
Mhm.
because belonging, well, let's have a look
Mhm.
at fitting in says, I will do and say and be anything you want me to so
Mhm.
that I get your love and acceptance. That's what
Yeah.
fitting in says. Belonging says, I belong to me. I am enough as I am. And whether or not you like me
Mhm.
is not as important as to whether or not I like me.
Mhm. Yeah.
So one is an unconscious primal brain. I think for us to raise our consciousness and raise to the next level of human evolution is to
Mhm.
understand that we do not have to abide by that deep primal desire to fit in. And
Mhm.
what's going to be more healthy for us as humans and as evolving spiritual beings is to
Mhm.
connect in with our belonging to ourselves and maybe our higher self, God,
Mhm.
whatever you call it individually.
Yeah.
That's why we want to call you weird or crazy, because
Mhm.
that is our primal being. But when it
Yeah.
comes down to it, you and I are different because we all are, right? But
Mhm.
deep down, like our blood's the same color, our bones do
Yeah.
the same thing. They may grow
Mhm.
differently, but the spirit of life that exists in you, the
Yeah.
heartbeat, is the same as my heartbeat. We're exactly the
Mhm.
fucking same.
Mhm.
De-
Yeah.
like on a deeper or higher level, we're exactly the same. It's just that our
Mhm.
costumes look different and our
Yeah.
roles are different. The play that we are playing is different for each of us.
Mhm.
Um,
And yeah, I would like to add like two sentences. Let me know if it's correct or just anything. Do you also think like people not like labeling each other, right? Like that person is weird or whatever you want to call it
mm,
as.
mm,
Do you think that also comes from fear of unknown? Like they don't know what is going to happen after this one. And second is, do you, do you think like when people don't understand each other, like they don't understand behaviors, like why is this person doing this? And that might come from n number of reasons.
mm.
Do you think like these like two things also like kind of push into that particular corner where a person might label someone else something?
Yeah, I think definitely, because uncertainty is like, to the mind, to the ego, uncertainty or change equals death. Like the ego's
Yes.
mind, the mind's mind is to keep us safe. It's not there designed to keep us happy. So if we see
Hmm.
something that is foreign,
Yeah.
we automatically, like I just said before, automatically it has to be treated as a threat
Hmm.
if we're in that kind of primal brain
Yeah.
kind of way. The
Hmm.
Which is why we have to label, like why we feel the need to label, like, me as white, you as brown. There's some
Hmm.
practicalities to that also, though,
Yeah.
because it's like, if I needed to spot you in a crowd, and the
Yes.
easiest thing for you to tell me, if we were at a festival with mostly whiteys, you'd be like,
Hmm.
oh, I'm brown. That would make
Yeah.
it so much easier. Like
Hmm.
me saying I'm a
Yeah.
woman, or you can't see it here, but I've got a big tattoo on my arm. They're
Yeah.
just really practical things, that
Yeah.
labels that make it easier for us to communicate. Like,
Hmm.
the time is a communication tool. If we can label things as communication tools rather
Mm-hmm.
than identification with those things, like
Mm-hmm.
you 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 are brown, I am white,
Mm-hmm.
um, but only on the surface, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like it's not. So our ability to be able to deal with uncertainty is really important as from a happiness and a consciousness point of view, because the world is
Mm-hmm.
uncertain.
Yeah.
And if we can go into the world with a sense of curiosity opposed to
Mm-hmm.
fear, to me the ultimate
Mm-hmm.
the ultimate thing is the choice between love and faith. Sorry,
Mm-hmm.
fear and faith, which is
Okay.
also
Mm-hmm.
love. So I'm not going to be stupid. I'm going to set boundaries. I'm not going to be like, oh, well, there's a bunch of thugs with guns. I'm going to go curiously go check and see if I can be love and light with them. Like, no, don't be a dickhead. Like, be sensible about it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but if I seek to understand curiosity, be more curious about the world, then we will have more opportunity for connection.
Mm-hmm.
The extension of that I would put with that is that most people don't understand themselves. And
Mm-hmm.
going within is terrifying. People don't want to know who they are and face their own stuff. So they sure
Mm-hmm.
as shit don't want to face someone else's because
Yeah.
they don't know their own darkness. So for me, I go deep within my own psyche and have done for many, 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 many years. So when I'm with
Mm-hmm.
my clients or if I'm out in the world and someone tells me that, you know, that that they were trafficked, that they were a
Mm-hmm.
sex slave and they were trafficked, and they tell me about their drugs or what they've done, or they tell me about their kinkiest desires from a coaching
Mm-hmm.
perspective or their thoughts. I'm not particularly confronted by any of that because, well, they're human and I get it. Like
Mm-hmm.
it, I think that if we have looked within enough, you don't have the capacity to scare me as much
Yeah.
because I know deep down you're just like me, you're just human, and so am
Mm-hmm.
I, and I'm going to have boundaries because I'm sensible.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
like, yeah, I think that our ability to understand ourselves helps us understand others far more profoundly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think it was Gary Vee who said, like, be kind to those who believe you because they are in a bad place than you. That's why they feel
100%.
urge, to criticize you because they are in pain and they cannot understand someone who is happy, and they're like, how can you so be happy? I'm in so much pain.
Yeah. Happy
Yeah.
people don't try to steal happiness from other people. They just,
Yeah.
like, people who love themselves don't criticize other people.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't, because why do
Yeah.
you have any? Again, if we go internal, external,
Mm-hmm.
happiness is within. So if you're good with
Yeah.
yourself, you have no
Yeah.
need to steal power from other people. And I think that if we
Mm-hmm.
look at the world being pretty fucked up as it is, it's
Mm-hmm.
because, as far as I'm concerned, let's solve the problem of the world. To me, as far as I'm concerned, is that we will not have outer peace in the world until each person or enough people have inner peace.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I'm at war with myself, of course I'm going to be at war with the neighbor. And that's
Yeah.
from a micro point of view, you and me, but it's also on a macro, the country. Now, I need to overpower you because I don't feel very powerful. And if that's the
Mm-hmm.
only way we know how to get power is by stealing it from others,
Yeah.
then we will always be in suffering. But
Mm-hmm.
if we understand where our power is, which is internal
Mm-hmm.
and consciousness, then the world becomes a much happier place
Yeah.
instantly, actually, if everybody was doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah. This world is like way too fucking closed. Yeah, like people like to live in their confined walls of emotions or beliefs or whatever it
Mm.
is.
Mm.
And that's why I find like people like me very curious because I am like very open. Like you could talk to me about anything in this world and I am always like just listening.
Yeah.
And weirdly enough, I don't know why, whenever I talk to like people, uh, towards the end they tell me their deepest secrets. I'm like, I did not ask for that. And like if I was vindictive, I would be like, okay, write this shit down. you know
Yes. Yeah.
but I'm like, I literally do not have any like intention or any usage of this information that you're giving me.
Mm. Mm.
Like, why are you giving me this? Because it's not necessary for me, or I don't even think that I needed this information that you're giving me. But I'm always like open. And yeah, that's like very rare is what I have understood in recent years. And I
Mm.
applaud you because you are able to decode this shit that other people are are just looking at it very in surprised faces. But
Mm.
you are able to understand it in a deeper level and decode it and help other and ape brain people understand what's going on when they make a decision.
I certainly hope so. I
um,
mean, that's my mission. Like, to me,
mhm,
I'm here to serve as much as I possibly can.
mhm,
Myself in the sense of continue to do my own work, but the things that I've learned and the things that I know help
mhm,
people to be more connected, to be less stressed, to have less self-doubt, to overcome their fears, to live a life that
mhm,
is truly powerful within themselves, happy and free,
mhm,
really. Like, if I was to go Buddha on us for a second, it's the liberation from suffering. When we
mhm,
understand ourselves and we understand the mechanics and the decoding of, oh,
yeah,
thoughts aren't fact. I don't have to
mhm,
believe everything that I think. Just because I think
mhm,
it doesn't mean it's true. So,
mhm,
and my emotions are indicators. They're just communicating something to me. Now, all of a sudden,
mhm,
I'm at the helm of my life. I now
mhm,
get to control my thoughts, my beliefs, and my actions.
mhm,
Now you're powerful, and you won't ever have to seek externally again. You have to practice it, don't get me wrong, but like,
mhm,
it's it's freedom, and I think that every human wants that.
mhm. But Luna, do you think like does it truly amazes you how simple we are? Like we are complicated, no doubt, but we are so fucking simple.
Are we simple? Yeah. I was just thinking. I was like, we overcomplicate things. I think that
Hmm.
it doesn't take a lot to make humans happy if
Yeah.
we get out of the way. Like, our soul
Hmm.
doesn't take a lot. Like, we are really simple. Like, you're right. Our soul doesn't need a lot. Our mind convinces us
Yeah.
that we need more
Yes.
money and more accolades and more status and a better body and a wife and a husband and all these jobs. And it's like, no, it doesn't, because the mind is
Hmm.
insatiable. It's never going to be satisfied. You're right.
Yeah.
We are simple because we're animals.
Hmm. Yeah, that's why I read this. Like, it is so simple to be happy, but it is so happy to be simple. Like,
Ah,
you know,
yeah,
and we are not born assholes. We just become assholes. As
yeah,
time progresses.
yeah. Because we
Yeah.
pass it on. I
Hmm.
often say that we cannot teach what we do not know. So,
Yeah.
my parents don't know how to be happy and free. Their parents
Hmm.
didn't, their parents didn't, their parents didn't. So how could they ever have taught me that? I've gone
Hmm.
and learnt it, if that makes
Hmm.
sense. I've learnt it and pondered it
Yeah.
and continue to, by the way. I'm not a
Hmm.
finished product yet, but like,
Yeah.
it's an ever evolving consciousness.
Hmm.
I,
I
you
still,
can't.
yeah.
Mm,
I just want to like share one last thing. Like,
mm,
the term happy I heard, I was like maybe like 4 5 years old, and I went to a park, and I think I did something wrong. I don't remember exactly. And when I came back, my father was furious, but my grandfather pulled me aside and he asked me, "Okay, so you did this, right?" And I was like, "Yes." Are you happy about it? And
mm.
And I was like, okay, what the fuck is happy, first of all? Because I didn't understand. And but you get the sense of, okay, what is the person trying to say, even if you don't understand the word, right? And he was like,
Yeah.
are you happy you did this particular thing? And I was like, yeah, I'm not really happy about it,
Mm,
you know. And I did not like say it out loud, but he himself said, okay, so you're not happy, right? And I was like, yeah, I'm not happy. And
mm.
he was like, okay, so just remember, next time if something does not make you happy, just don't do it.
Yeah.
And that's how you stay out of trouble.
I like it. I like it. And I think that
Yeah.
the distinction there that a lot of people get trapped into is the difference between, um, well, happy as a state, or a state of
Hmm.
being, and actually
Yeah.
pleasure.
Yeah.
Because people think, oh, well, this alcohol or this drug or this food is making me happy. It's like, no, it's
Mm.
giving you pleasure. And
Yeah.
that's a different thing, because pleasurable
Hmm.
things too frequently tend to lead us to unhappiness,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Because we're seeking pleasure the whole time and we're hedonistic.
Hmm.
So we just get addicted to things, trying to chase happiness again externally.
Yeah.
I think if I may clarify, what I
Mhm.
mean when I say happy is not that I'm always joyful. It's not an
Yeah.
emotion of happiness. It is a
Yeah.
state of inner knowing that all is well.
Hmm.
That's what
Yeah.
that's what I really mean by happiness. Of like happiness
Yeah.
is the deep experience
Hmm.
of knowing that you are okay, and so you can
Hmm.
be sad, angry, mad, disappointed, and still be at a state of peace and happiness underneath those emotions.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh my God, like you're sounding like another psychologist that I was talking to. She said that happiness should not be a process, but rather a result.
Yeah, right, like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's the end
She's like,
outcome.
yeah, it should be end outcome. You should not always be happy because you'll be miserable.
Correct.
Um,
Yes.
you
Yeah.
know, she said like you will dread cleaning your house, but once you're done with it, you'll be very happy that, oh my God, my house is clean.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
It's not immediate.
mhm,
It's usually later. It's
mhm,
consequential.
yeah.
Mm. Mm.
What would be your parting words to my audience?
You are enough. You were born enough. You will die enough. And all you need to do is remember that.
Mm, that's a pretty strong message. Um,
Yeah, I believe it to be
yeah.
true 100%.
Hmm. Anyways, Luna, it was great talking to you. Thank you very much for taking your time. And
Absolute pleasure.
like coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's been great.
Hmm. And where can they find your book if they want to buy it?
Oh, yeah, you can find it in lots of different places online. If you just search Lunaria Gaia, that's my full name. So I'm sure you'll pop it in the show notes. It's on the screen here anyway. Lunaria Gaia,
Mhm.
Perfectly Imperfect. You will be able to find it. It's on Amazon. I narrated it on Audible. So if you have an Audible subscription, you can go listen to it there. You can find it on my
Mhm.
website if you would like signed copies. That's www.moreconfidence.com.au. And look, you can follow me on the socials. I'm all over all the
Mhm.
different social platforms. So you can go check out my podcast and my bits, and you will always have daily inspired posts from me to keep you motivated, to keep you inspired, to keep you loving yourself.
Mhm. Got
Yeah.
it. And guys, her website will be in the episode description. So just go there and check it out. And if you like what she says, which you should, by the way, and if you find yourself challenging what she is saying, just go buy her book and read it, and then write her an email, a descriptive email of why you think that she is wrong.
Yes,
And
please do. I welcome that.
yeah, because I think she would prove you wrong very quickly. So yeah, try it.
I'd certainly be open to discussions because this is just what have concluded thus far. And if I
Hmm.
have new information that changes it, I'm absolutely always open to new ways of next levels of freedom. So I welcome all of that.
Hmm.
Thanks for having
Yes.
me.
Thank you very much. And guys, until next episode, take care and see you later.
See ya.